Alright, hello everybody, Skyrim here, back again with another Diablo Immortal video. Back into it with part 2. I don't know how much I'm going to fit into this one, so I'm going to try not to keep this too long again, but we'll see how that goes. Now we're talking about well, first and foremost, let's go ahead and do this little coverage part here. And the Chinese patch notes, there's a little bit of kind of a discussion about this. Now, from what I can tell from reading this, after server maintenance, the peak threshold, this is Google translated, of course, the peak threshold of all servers will be raised to level 600, and adventurers below the peak of 600 will enjoy the upgrade experience bonus. So that doesn't exactly mean that everybody's going to be pushed, or turned immediately into 600. No, that means the server, the max server, which, where are we at right now, actually? We are at, as of right now, we are at 560. So this weekend, when the patch goes live, the max server Paragon is going to be pushed up to 600, which isn't too far off of where it... Actually, no, this is weekly. That's right. So yeah, they're pushing it up all the way to 600. So all of us, especially those of us who have been in the red bar for quite some time down here, will see probably green. Actually, that's going to be kind of crazy. I haven't seen a green experience bar in a long time. So we're going to have all the experience boost gain until, of course, we knock out levels and burn through them very, very quickly at that point, which most of us will be doing, to make it to 600 that much faster. So yeah, that's what's going to happen with that. Okay, so that's out of the way. Let's go ahead and get back to the global notes here and start discussing the main topic of this video, is the class and magic attribute balance changes. Okay, and also we have up here a little further, oh yeah, we're getting new essences as well, which honestly I think is a little fast compared to how we normally get them, but this is a major update. And also, well, actually, as far as Wizard goes, the essence that we got was absolutely lackluster and useless as could be, which I'd say at this point 80 to 85% of them are, unfortunately for Wizard. I don't know why they've just continued to make them so terribly useless, but nonetheless, let me know what you think as far as your classes are concerned here, because I'm just gonna go ahead and post these on the screen and we'll do a visual run through of this. I'm not going to read them all out loud because that's going to take even longer. I'm just going to go ahead and give the standard, couple seconds or so. You can pause where you need to. Here's the whole barbarian set. Scroll down to Blood Knight. Down to Crusader. Again, I'll put the stuff in the pinned comments down below for the patch notes again, like I did the previous video. Then on to Demon Hunter. On to Monk. On to Necromancer. On to Tempest. And on to Wizard. Okay, so there's that. Those are the bits there for this. Now let's go ahead and get into this. Now what I'm also hoping is this next set of essences that are rolling out, some of them I was reading, especially for Wizard, I don't know, they feel kind of meh again. Hopefully not the same for all the other classes, but we'll see, I suppose. And also what it all makes the difference is not the most recent essence that we had released, but the previous. That one has the largest damage additive bonuses to them. And that's because that's how they were coded. That's how they were designed. They have the most damage, and that's why they are the most effective for most content in the game. And that's why so many people run that set from Inferno 2-ish, and I think maybe it was before Inferno 3? I don't know when those got released, but either way, that's pretty much the most highest damage dealing essences that we got in the game by design. And that makes it bad because that greatly limits the amount of builds and that's a problem. And that's why you only see like 2 to 3 at best builds out there right now being used across, like, you know, the PvP metas and so on and so forth, because they crank the damage up so insanely high on certain sets of those essences at that time that nothing else comes close. And that would mean what they need to do is go back to some of the older essences and rehash them and redo them and bring their damage and stat values up to date. They need to go back and renew a lot of the old essences so that we can, you know, get those things back in play and actually mix and match pieces to how we want to play. Not by how the game has pretty much, you know, pigeonholed us into certain lanes with certain classes on, like, oh, this is the most damage you're going to get out of this, and you have to wear, you know, X, Y, and Z pieces together, and that's just how it is. And if you agree with me, you know, that's there's no, like, unfortunately, I mean, we can discuss this, you know, and I still use, obviously, other ones that are off of that set, or not off of the set, but I do definitely tell the difference, and it's unquestionable, really. It's unfortunate, though, too, because a lot of them were, like, the circle aura builds that you just walk through stuff, and that's it. And so many classes have that, and so many of them are just, like, so repetitive. There's no uniqueness to them at all, and that's my biggest issue I have, is the fact that there's no class uniqueness when you build them all the same. And they should have done a lot better than that, but of course they didn't, and, well, here we are. Anyway, that out of the way, that's kind of like a generalized discussion about what, you know, how the essences have been for a while now, especially the last couple sets. And like the most recent last set that we got, like I said, was completely useless and forgettable, and they definitely did not put, like, any substantial damage values in those, as far as Wizard I know goes. I don't know about the other classes, but anyway, as you can see on the screen here, the class and magic balance attribute changes. Now this is going to impact excuse me, this is going to impact Gauntlet raids quite significantly and heavily, okay? Necromancer, the Frigid Repose, Bone Armor, Vortex of Ice damage is increased. Now, this one, I don't really see too much play of it myself personally, but hey, whatever. They're trying to bring that one up to par, I suppose. And this is why, like I said, they need to bring up all the old essences up to par, not just a handful here at a time. They need to do the whole lot, needs a rework. But anyway, most of the reworks that we have gotten for all the classes have been good or really broken, of course. So there is that, but I mean, they do need to go back and adjust all of them accordingly, I think. Parting Gift, however, here's the kicker. Here's the big one. Parting Gift, Bone Armor. The charges granted by Bone Armor now have an upper limit of the damage they will block, equal to 160% of your damage. This, I mean, that's a significant value, but instead of it being completely immune, now there's a limit. This means particularly heavy single hits will cause some damage. So that's going to affect the usage of it across the board in all Gauntlet raids going forward. This one hurts a lot, I do believe. And also, what I got to thinking was, oh, well, for Wizard, we should be fine because we still have Hailstone. Well, unfortunately, in the Chinese notes, which it does not show in Global, in the Chinese patch notes, for Hailstone for Wizard, the same thing was applied to Hailstone as well. So, no immunity charges for armor, skills, essences are... They completely they reduced them. They completely nerfed them. So, there's that. It's going to suck going forward, I think, for Gauntlet content now. And maybe even some raids, honestly. So, I don't know why... Well, I mean, I know why they did that. They don't want people to just kind of do whatever. However, the problem with that is... It's kind of the necessary built-in mechanic that we had in the game in order to clear the content, especially this most recent Gauntlet 3. So they're kind of shooting everybody in the foot with this, but with this change, and I don't think it's honestly a good thing. They should have left that alone. I don't know why they felt the need and compelled to do so. Maybe they think, oh, well, we're having all these other changes. People just need to get good. And and pay some more money to raise up their stats more in order to clear the content. Yeah. No, NetEase, no. Stop it. Get some help. That's not going to work, okay? Moving on. Magic Affix balance changes some more. Now, here we go. Let's go through these. And this is actually going to shift around, I think, some builds. The meta's a little bit, as I was starting to kind of hint at in the previous video about some of the changes that might be coming to Battlegrounds because of these changes here. Yeah, these are affixes, mind you. Are effective only in PvP activities, it says, too. Only in PvP activities, so keep that in mind. Endure. Shields that grant you immunity to 2 hits of damage cannot occur more often than once every 12 seconds. That's what it is currently. The change will be now absorbs up to 50% of your damage per hit. Massive damage hits can consume multiple charges. So it's basically going to eat through the shields a bit faster now compared to before. And yeah, you don't have full immunity anymore. Now it's more of a damage percentage. All right. Another Endure affix. Evading an attack has a 12% chance to grant you a shield equal to 10% of your maximum life for 5 seconds. Cannot occur more than once every 6 seconds. That's pretty crazy already. The change to it now is going to be, previously the chance to trigger was reduced in PvP. Now instead the shield value is reduced in PvP. Shield value reduced from 10% to 5%. Remove the chance to trigger. Cooldown increased from 6 to 12 seconds. So there's that one. Anybody running those magic affixes in PvP? All right. Clandestine. Movement speed increased by 9% while invisible. Now it has been changed. It has been increased to 12% while invisible. So, okay, that's a buff. The next one here. Movement speed increased 0.3% for 5 seconds after killing a monster, up to a maximum of 9%. This is funny because this is a monster. Now, they said most of these were changed due to PvP, but this one is not a PvP magic affix here. Whatever. Movement speed. Okay, so now it's changed, increased up to a maximum of 12% from 30 to 40 stacks. All right, yeah, that's definitely a PvE one right there. I don't know why they said, right, whatever. All right, so back to some more PvP changes, I'm assuming here. Undying Rage, big one. Reduces the duration of harmful effects by 20%. All right, if anybody didn't know, that's what you need to keep in mind whenever you deal with barbs in Battlegrounds, whenever they go into Undying Rage, and especially if they're using the life leech. I think it's an offhand. Keep your distance. When you see them go down to 1 HP and they pop their stuff and then immune to whatever, keep your distance at all possible. If you can, apply dots to them, affect them with ranged attacks. That's the way to deal with the barbs. If you do not do it that way, they will continue to go for packs of people and siphon life off of them in an instant, like no tomorrow. And then they're, of course, going to be either inching the idols that much further along the way forever because of this, or they're also going to be sitting on idols when you're trying to push them on attack forever, and everybody on their team will respawn to help out again. That's what the problem is. I see far too often in Battlegrounds right now, especially because of the insane life leech that they have and the undying that goes on, it seems like forever. People need to deal with barbs a bit differently. You can't just sit there and trade blows like I said in the last video, where it is just barbs swinging meat hammers at each other, figuratively and literally. That's why it's such an issue, and they take forever to drop. You need to just apply dots, move away from them when they're in that state. If they go off the run and heal, hey, so be it. At least they're off the idols, they're off the point of the objective. That's the best way to deal with them. Or apply dots, chase after them. If you're not pushing the idols, stay on the objective, mind you, do not chase. But if they're close enough and you can see them going to go and heal, you can interrupt them with anything you can and tag them with something just to, prevent that from being a thing, and then they will drop that much easier from that point. I meant to do a multiple instance video of that, but then that's when I had all kinds of PC issues, and I was going to do multiple clips and edit them together and show, you know, all the instances of how that, especially as a ranged wizard class, that's why how we deal with them, and that's why we're the most, I don't want to say the most effective, because necros and any class can do it. It's just far too many stay in the mix and try to sit there and slug it out, and that just prolongs things way too long in the game right now, obviously, and it's a problem, and it's a huge problem. And still, it remains to this day, they need to change how Undying works when you're on the idols, because yeah, the state that the game is in right now for PvP and Battlegrounds obviously reflects that. So anyway, that's a whole tangent I had to put in here for this particular issue, and also for everybody to kind of pay a bit more attention to when that happens, and, you know, like I said, get away so that they don't just life leech off of you, and obviously probably take you out too in the process of all of it. You need to just keep your distance, pull them off the points, if you know, bait them off the points themselves, because they're going to want to chase you so they can get their health back any way possible. They're looking for it badly, but you got to keep your distance just for a couple seconds until that wears off, and keep them at that low HP, and then pop them and then finish them off. Anyway, sorry, I had to put that in because I see it all the time, and it's just frustrating. All right, now it's not always easy, mind you, because they have their chains and all kinds of other stuff to pull you into them, but still, just try. You have to do something, and you have to approach it that way. All right, so then the change, let's get back to it. The change to Undying Rage. Reduced from 20% of, reduces the duration of harmful effects by 20%. So now the duration of harmful effects has been brought, this is a nerf. They reduced it from 20% to 10%. There you go. So, I mean, that's kind of a step in the, I say in the right direction, sadly, but, barbs are going to be up in arms on that, but I mean, come on now. Enough's enough. Grants you, Sprint now also grants you a 25% chance of being immune to knockback, chill, and slow effects. Okay, that's what it does currently. And that's going to be changed. That's going to be reduced to 12.5%. And again, another 0.5%. I don't understand that logic. Just make it a flat value. Seriously, these 0.5% is just laughable, especially when we're dealing with things that get strifed. But yeah, so that's reduced from 25 to 12.5%. That's another nerf. Whirlwind range increased by 8%. That has been changed. Increased from 8% to 12%. So that's a buff. They brought Whirlwind range increased back up again. So there you go. Wrath of the Berserker. Currently what it does, has a 20% chance to trigger an explosion every 0.5 seconds. Dealing 31.8, again a funky percent here, 31.8% of your damage to all nearby enemies. Now they changed it, and this is a buff. They increased it now from 31.8 to a flat, okay, well they made it a flat percentage, to 40%. That's pretty significant increase in damage, of which they did not need any more sources of at this point. They do not need any more sources of extra damage like this. This is ridiculous as it is. Anyway, Leap, reduce your damage taken by 10% for 3 seconds. Currently what it does. It will be changed to increased from 10% to 12% reduction of damage. So that's a buff. All right, Monks. Inner Sanctuary increases evasion rating by 7% in Inner Sanctuary. Currently. Change to reduce from 7% to 5%. So that's a little bit of a nerf. Exploding Palm has a 5% chance to explode when damaging a bleeding enemy. Change to increase from 5% to 10%. That's a buff. Wave of Light deals 25% increased critical hit damage when you are within 3 yards of your target. Changed, or will be changed, to increased from 25% to 30%. That's a buff. Tempest. All right, here we go. Tempest, Flowing Strike. Always a crutch or a pain point one way or the other. Okay, this is very much a one of those kind of skills in the game that they introduced, and it's always been pretty polarizing. Flowing Strike grants a shield that absorbs 185% of your damage for 3 seconds. Right? They will be changing it to reduced from 185% to 90%. That's almost in half. That's almost in half. So this is a nerf. Duration has been increased, however, from 3 to 4 seconds. So you get an extra second, and depending on what your beneficial effect durations are, of course, that's going to apply as well. But either way, it's still a second increase. So they increased that, but they nerfed the reduced shield, or they reduced the shield, so almost in half from what it currently is right now. Rolling Surf causes your primary attacks to launch water blades at enemies dealing 19% of your damage. The change will be reduced from 19% to 10%. So it was almost 20%. It has almost been reduced in half on the Rolling Surf. So there you go. Windwalk. Here's another one that's been pretty much a horrible issue, of which you can just put down your puddles, is what I call them, and be immune to everything, dots and damage, everything. Restores 1% of your maximum life every 0.5 seconds, up to a maximum of 6 times. That's what it does currently. It's going to be changed, and they actually made it worse, honestly, in this case. This has got a buff. I don't know why, but I guess to make up for other things. But Windwalk in itself, honestly, the immunity puddle, I feel needs adjusting, especially when deactivating idols, but hey, whatever. Changed, it will be increased from 1% to 2%. So that got a buff, which is odd choice again. Zephyr Surge deals 10% increased critical damage for each Zephyr consumed. It will be changed to increased from 10% to 12%. So that's a buff by 2%. Cascade range increased by 8% on Cascade. That one will be changed to increased from 8% to 12%. Going even more massive on the range of things in the game, which we already have, honestly, these. This isn't so much an AoE ring, but I'm just saying in general, the classes like Necro and Satyr, of course, have these huge, like, stadium-sized circles that take up the entire map, and no matter what you try to do to avoid them, get out of the way of them, they're going to hit you no matter what. It's honestly pretty ridiculous, the size of them. Some of those, I think, need to be reined down for PvP, if anything, a little smaller than what they are, because they're honestly too ridiculous in their size and what they do. And then they, of course, stack the potency, of which some run 11k potency. I've seen Satyrs run, 11k potency. And of course the Necros, their potency is just ridiculous, and the Necros have an infinite lockdown on most characters now that do not have any form of CC immunity. And you're completely stuck, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's pretty ridiculous too. Nothing's been changed here and that, from what I can tell. And yeah, so anyway, that's where I'm going to leave this one. There was one other thing I wanted to see that I was going to find in the Chinese patch notes. Let me go ahead and pause the video and look for it real quick. All right, never mind. What I did want to cover, I covered, and that was pretty much the server Paragon change, and everything in the patch notes as far as the Chinese stuff goes was pretty much in line with the global notes, surprisingly enough. When it comes to a lot of these changes, there might be a few things here and there, but nothing really too overly substantial to make note of it. I've already discussed about enough here. This is again going to cover the more class balancing essences, new essences on the way, changes to magic affixes that we have now, and yeah, so we'll get into other stuff, other quality of life changes and such in the next video. This one's gone on long enough. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Which of these changes are you looking forward to? Which one of these changes do you not like for your classes involved here? Because obviously it's going to be always a pain point for all of us involved when it comes to some of these things. The new essence is on the way. I don't know how I feel about the ones for Wizard personally myself so far, and everything else. But anyway, Until next time, everybody, stay safe out there in the real world and fire as always. Take care of yourselves as best you can, one day at a time. That's all we can do. It's the best we can do. Until the next one, see ya.